She never thought a quiet afternoon tending to her sunflower fields would turn into a nightmare. The sound of lifted trucks and revving engines shattered the peace at Valley Wind Farms, and in just moments, Mia Mitchell would find herself surrounded by the most dangerous gang of local thugs in Harvest County. The Red Ravens weren't known for their mercy, and as their leader circled her like a wolf stalking its prey, she could feel the familiar rush of adrenaline she hadn't experienced since her combat days. But what these dangerous men didn't know, what nobody in the farming community knew, was that the quiet, unassuming farmer's wife was about to teach them the most brutal lesson of their lives. They thought Mia Mitchell was just another farmer's spouse. They saw her gentle hands tending to crops, her warm smile at the local market, her modest demeanor around town. They assumed she was weak, someone they could push around, someone they could terrorize into submission. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the next few minutes, the Red Ravens would discover that they hadn't just picked on any farmer's wife. They had threatened a decorated Army Paratrooper. And some mistakes you only make once. The late summer sun beats down on Valley Wind Farms, where rows of towering sunflowers stretch toward the azure sky like nature's own soldiers standing at attention. Mia Mitchell moves between the golden sentinels with practiced ease, her movements precise and efficient as she checks each plant for signs of disease or damage. At 35, she carries herself with the quiet confidence of someone who has found peace in the rhythms of agricultural life, though beneath her sun-weathered exterior lies a strength few would suspect. The afternoon heat creates shimming mirages above the dusty access road that cuts through their property, the same road that connects their farm to the main highway. Mia pauses in her work, wiping sweat from her brow as she surveys the healthy crop before her. These sunflowers represent more than just their livelihood. They're a symbol of the new life she and James built together after her military service, a life marked by growth rather than destruction. The peace of the moment shatters as the distant roar of souped-up engines echoes across the fields. Mia's hand stills on the plant she's examining, her eyes drawn to the access road, where a cloud of dust rises like signal smoke. The sound grows louder, more menacing with each passing second. The Red Ravens appear like dark specters through the heat haze, their lifted trucks gleaming under the merciless sun. 5 vehicles, all modified for intimidation rather than function, pull into the farm's main yard. Their leader, Cole "Scarecrow" Wilson, kills his engine first. The sudden silence, more threatening than the mechanical roar that preceded it. Mia's fingers brush against the stem of a sunflower, an unconscious gesture that grounds her in the present while her mind catalogues every detail of the unfolding situation. She's heard stories about the Red Ravens, whispered warnings at the farmers market about their reputation for violence and extortion. They've been moving through the county's farming communities, demanding protection money and taking what they want by force. But they've never come to Valley Wind Farms before. Not until today. Scarecrow steps down from his truck with exaggerated casualness, his boots raising small clouds of dust where they strike the earth. "Well, what do we have here?" His voice carries across the field, dripping with mock curiosity. "Looks like someone's pretty little wife is playing in the dirt." Mia continues her work, trying to project a calm she doesn't need to fake. The methodical motion of checking the plants gives her something to focus on, besides the approaching footsteps. "This is private property," she says, her voice steady and clear. "Unless you're here to buy sunflower seeds, I'll need to ask you to leave." The thugs laugh, the sound echoing across the empty fields. Scarecrow steps closer, deliberately invading her space. His right-hand man, a brute they call Hammer, flanks him while the others spread out, creating a loose circle around Mia. Their movements are predictable, amateur, nothing like the coordinated tactics she once faced in combat. "Private property." Scarecrow's lips curl into a sneer. "Sweetheart, everything in Harvest County belongs to whoever's strong enough to take it, and right now, that's the Red Ravens." Inside the farmhouse, old Tom Henderson watches through the window, his weathered face creased with concern. His hand reaches for the phone, fingers trembling slightly as he dials a number he knows by heart. Out in the western field, James Mitchell is checking irrigation lines when his phone buzzes in his pocket. Something in Tom's voice makes him drop his tools immediately. "Everything okay at the house, Tom? James, you better get back here. The Red Ravens just rolled up, and they're circling Mia like vultures." James's response comes with surprising calm. "I'll be right there." He turns to his farmhand with an apologetic smile. "Pete, we need to finish this later. Family emergency." Back in the sunflower field, Scarecrow has moved even closer to Mia, reaching out to run a finger along one of the giant flower heads. "Nice crops you got here. Your husband must be real proud, having his little woman tend to his fields while he's off doing real farmer's work." Mia steps back, her spine straight, her weight balanced just so. "I said you need to leave." Hammer laughs, the sound sharp and cruel. "Oh, she's got spirit, Scarecrow. I like that. Makes it more fun when they fight back a little. More fun when they break," another thug adds, moving to block Mia's path to the farmhouse. Scarecrow's smile fades slightly as he surveys the vast expanse of valley wind farms, his eyes lingering on the neat rows of sunflowers stretching toward the horizon. "You know, we've been thinking about expanding our territory. This farm seems like a nice little spot. Quiet, peaceful." He looks around the property with exaggerated interest. "Perfect place to set up our new operation, don't you think?" Mia's mind races through scenarios, tactical assessments as natural to her as breathing. The thugs have positioned themselves poorly, leaving multiple escape routes and failing to account for the advantage the tall sunflowers provide in terms of cover. But she keeps her voice level, betraying none of her tactical calculations. "This is private property. You're trespassing." "Trespassing." Scarecrow throws his head back and laughs. "Boys, you hear that? Little lady thinks she owns these fields." His expression darkens as he reaches for one of the sunflower stems. "Let me explain something to you, sweetheart. Everything here, it belongs to whoever's strong enough to take it." He pulls hard on the sunflower, intending to rip it from the ground. But Mia's hand shoots out, grasping his wrist. For a moment, they're locked in a silent battle of wills, neither willing to let go. Her grip is surprisingly firm, and something flickers in Scarecrow's eyes, the first hint of uncertainty. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Mia warns, though. Her voice remains calm, almost conversational. Scarecrow's face twists with anger as he tries to pull free, surprised by the strength in her grip. "And why is that? Your husband going to come save you?" His voice drops to a menacing whisper. "Where is the farmer anyway? Out playing with his tractors while his woman faces the big bad world alone." The other thugs close in, their heavy boots crushing the rich soil Mia has spent years nurturing. The afternoon sun catches on brass knuckles and chain wallets, on the crude weapons they carry, more for show than skill. "Maybe we should stick around," Hammer suggests, his eyes never leaving Mia. "Show her how real men run a farm." Mia's mind races through the variables. James is in the western field, probably already heading back thanks to Tom's call. But she doesn't know how long it will take him to arrive. She needs to control the situation, keep it from escalating. Her military training screams at her to take advantage of their sloppy positioning. But years of civilian life have taught her the value of patience. "The sheriff makes regular patrols through here," she says, finally releasing Scarecrow's wrist, and taking a measured step back. "He'll be by any minute." Scarecrow's smile widens, revealing teeth stained by tobacco. "No, he won't. See, we passed your local law enforcement about 20 miles back. Looked like he was dealing with a nasty accident on Highway 43. Could be there for hours." He gestures expansively at the empty fields around them. "We've got all the time in the world." The thugs laugh again, but this time there's something darker in the sound. Mia glances toward the farmhouse where she can see Tom on the phone, his face pale with concern. Through the window she catches a glimpse of the locked gun cabinet in the living room, knows exactly what weapons it contains. But those are last resorts. She's learned that the hard way. Last chance, Mia says, straightening her shoulders. Leave now. Or what? Scarecrow steps even closer, towering over her. You going to make us? You and what army, little lady? The distant sound of an approaching tractor cuts through the tension. Mia feels a flutter of emotion in her chest, not relief, but concern for James. She doesn't want him walking into this situation, doesn't want to see him hurt, trying to protect her when she's more than capable of handling these amateurs herself. Scarecrow turns his head slightly at the sound, but doesn't back away. Looks like hubby's coming home. Good. His voice drips with sarcasm. Always wanted to learn from a real farmer. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly as James's tractor approaches the field. From where she stands, Mia can see her husband's familiar figure at the controls. His movements quick but controlled as he rushes home. What the Red Ravens don't see, what they couldn't possibly know, is the way Mia's stance has subtly shifted, her weight distributed in the way that once carried her through combat zones. They don't notice how she's already marked their positions, noted their weaknesses, identified the quickest ways to incapacitate each of them. They see what they want to see, a farmer's wife, alone and vulnerable in a field of sunflowers. They have no idea they're standing in the presence of a woman who has jumped from aircraft into hostile territory, who has led squadrons through war-torn cities, who has faced threats that would make these local thugs wet themselves in fear. They're about to learn that some threats don't come with warning labels, and some mistakes you only make once. The tractor's engine grows louder, and Maya notes with pride how James keeps it at a steady pace, doesn't rush in recklessly despite his obvious concern. He's learned a thing or two from her over the years about assessing situations before acting, about the value of appearing calm even when your heart is racing. But what these dangerous men don't realize is that they haven't just threatened any farmer's wife. They've cornered a predator in her own territory, and she's already chosen exactly how this confrontation will end. James Mitchell guides his tractor toward the sunflower fields with practiced precision, each movement deliberate and controlled. Nothing in his weathered face betrays the calculations running through his mind as he takes in the scene before him. The 5 thugs have created a loose semicircle around Mia, their lifted trucks casting long shadows across the golden fields, patches and symbols marking them as members of the Red Ravens. He brings the tractor to a stop at the field's edge, cutting the engine with swift efficiency. Each movement is precise, unhurried, though his eyes never leave the group surrounding his wife. Pete, the farmhand who had rushed back with him, sits tensely in the passenger seat, sensing the dangerous energy crackling through the air. Head straight to the house, Pete, James tells him quietly, his voice calm but brooking no argument. Check on Tom. Don't look back. Don't engage. The young farmhand hurries past the thugs, keeping his head down as he makes his way to the farmhouse. Scarecrow watches him go with obvious amusement, then turns his attention to James. Well, if it isn't the man of the house, Scarecrow calls out, his voice carrying across the field, just in time for the party. James steps down from the tractor, his boots making solid contact with the fertile soil. He moves unhurriedly, each step measured and deliberate. To the thugs, he looks like any other middle-aged farmer. Worn jeans, faded plaid shirt, years of sun etched into his face. They don't notice the way Mia's posture has shifted slightly, how she's already adjusting her position to maintain tactical advantage. Mia, James says, his voice steady. Everything okay here? Before Mia can answer, Scarecrow cuts in. Oh, we've been taking good care of your little woman, teaching her all about respect and how things work in the real world, James continues, his measured approach, stopping a precise distance from the group. Is that right? His tone remains conversational, but there's something in his eyes that makes Hammer shift uneasily. Honey, Mia starts, but Scarecrow talks over her again. "You know, we were just discussing business opportunities," Scarecrow says, spreading his arms wide. "This farm, it's got potential, lots of potential. Maybe it's time for some new management." James's expression doesn't change, but something in the air shifts. "I see, and you'd be the new management." Scarecrow's smile widens. "Smart man. See, that's how things work. Strong take what they want, weak learn to live with it, or don't live with it. Their choice." "That's an interesting philosophy," James replies, his voice still calm. "Got a lot of experience with that, do you?" One of the thugs, a hulking man with a patch-reading butcher, steps forward. "You mocking us, old man?" "No," James says simply. "Just having a conversation, trying to understand your position." He turns his attention back to Scarecrow. "So what exactly are you proposing here?" Scarecrow laughs, but there's an edge to it now. Something about the farmer's calmness is starting to get under his skin. "Proposing? I ain't proposing anything. I'm telling you how it's going to be. This farm, it's Red Raven's territory now. You want to keep working your land, you pay us protection. Want to keep your pretty wife safe, you pay us more." Mia starts to move, but James raises his hand slightly. A gesture so subtle, the thugs don't even notice it. But Mia holds her position, recognizing something in her husband's demeanor that these men can't see. "Protection," James repeats thoughtfully. "From what?" "From us," Hammer sneers, stepping closer to Mia. "Would be a shame if something happened to your crops or your wife." James's eyes track Hammer's movement, noting the way the thug's hand rests near his belt, where a knife handle protrudes. The other thugs are spreading out slightly, unconsciously moving into attack positions. Their amateur attempts at intimidation would almost be comical to someone with Maya's training. "You're threatening my wife," James says, his voice still conversational. "It's not a question." "Threatening?" Scarecrow affects an innocent expression. No, just explaining the facts of life. Strong survive, weak, well, they learn their place." James nods slowly. "I understand." His eyes meet Mia's, and something passes between them. Years of partnership, of understanding, of knowing exactly what the other is capable of. "And you consider yourselves strong." Something in his tone makes Scarecrow pause, but the thug leader covers it with a laugh. "Look around, farmer. 5 of us, 2 of you. Your wife's pretty, but she doesn't count. Math ain't that hard, is it?" "Numbers can be deceiving," James replies mildly, and Mia has to suppress a smile at the absolute truth of those words. Butcher takes another step forward, cracking his knuckles. "Nothing deceiving about a beating old-timer." "James," Mia says, concern evident in her voice, not for herself, but for what she knows is about to happen. She's seen that calm before, in soldiers who've reached their limit with bullies and thugs. "It's okay, honey," James assures her, his eyes never leaving Scarecrow. "These gentlemen are about to learn something important about strength." Scarecrow's amusement begins to fade, replaced by irritation. The farmer's continued calm is starting to feel like disrespect, and the wife's complete lack of fear doesn't fit with their usual pattern of intimidation. "Only thing getting learned here is you, old man," he growls. "Last chance. You want to do this the easy way, or we giving your wife a front-row seat to watch her husband get broken?" Mia takes a single step forward, her movement so fluid, so controlled, that Scarecrow unconsciously takes a half-step back before catching himself. Her years of military training scream at her to end this now, but she forces herself to wait, to let these men make their own choices. "Let me be clear," Mia says, her voice dropping slightly. "You came to our farm. You threatened our livelihood. You're talking about taking what isn't yours." Her stance shifts imperceptibly. "That tells me you don't understand the first thing about real strength." "That right?" Scarecrow's hand moves to his back where a heavy chain is coiled at his belt. Why don't you educate us then, little lady? Mia's eyes track the movement, but her expression remains unchanged. The familiar rush of pre-combat focus settles over her, time seeming to slow as her training takes over. You sure that's what you wanted? Education can be expensive. The tension in the air thickens. Even the afternoon birds have fallen silent, as if nature itself is holding its breath. James watches his wife, seeing the subtle changes in her posture that the thugs miss, the slight shift in her weight, the way her hands hang loose but ready at her sides. You got a smart mouth for a woman. Scarecrow snarls, his patience finally snapping. Maybe we start by shutting it permanently. He nods to Butcher and Hammer, who begin to move forward. Mia doesn't back away, doesn't raise her hands, doesn't show any sign of fear. She simply stands there, waiting. James takes a careful step to the side, giving her room to work, knowing exactly what's about to unfold. Last chance, Mia says quietly. Walk away now, and we forget this happened. Scarecrow pulls the chain from his belt, letting it dangle. Oh, we're way past walking away, sweetheart. Way past that. The afternoon sun breaks through a cloud, casting harsh shadows across the sunflower field. In that moment, as the thugs tense for action, James sees something change in his wife's eyes. The calm is still there, but now there's something else behind it, something that speaks of battles fought and won in places far from this peaceful farm. The Red Ravens are about to learn why some threats come in unexpected packages, and why the quietest fighters are often the most dangerous. Butcher moves first, his massive frame charging toward Mia with the confidence of someone who's never lost a fight. His fist cuts through the air, aimed at her jaw, but connects with nothing but empty space. Mia's movement is so subtle, so efficient, that it takes Butcher a full second to realize he's missed. The hell, Butcher mutters, stumbling slightly as his momentum carries him forward. Scarecrow watches, his chain hanging loose in his grip as his enforcer regains his balance. Something doesn't feel right. The farmer's wife shouldn't have been able to move that fast. Having trouble? Mia asks quietly, still standing in the same relaxed pose as if nothing had happened. Butcher snarls and launches another attack, this time throwing a combination of punches that would have laid out any normal person. But Mia isn't there for any of them, each movement taking her just inches out of harm's way, with an economy of motion that speaks of years of training. Stand still, bitch! Butcher's frustration boils over as he swings wildly. Why? Mia's voice remains calm. You seem to be doing fine on your own. Hammer steps forward, pulling his knife. The blade catches the afternoon sun as he flicks it open. Let's see you dance around this, princess. James takes a step forward, but Mia's voice stops him. Stay where you are, honey. Everything's under control. Scarecrow laughs, but there's an edge of uncertainty in it now. Control? You're outnumbered, lady, and now you've got steel to deal with. Numbers, Mia says softly, don't mean much if you don't know how to use them. Hammer lunges with the knife while Butcher comes in from the other side. It should have been a perfect trap. Instead, Mia steps between them with fluid grace, and suddenly Butcher is sprawled among the sunflowers, his own momentum used against him, while Hammer stumbles back, his knife hand twisted at an awkward angle. What? The Hammer starts, but his words cut off in a gasp as Mia applies just a touch more pressure to his wrist. Language, Mia chides gently. We're on a family farm. The knife falls to the ground, and Mia releases Hammer with a small push that sends him staggering back into Scarecrow. The gang leader has to step quickly to avoid being knocked over, his chain swinging wildly. Who are you? Scarecrow demands, his earlier confidence cracking slightly. Just a farmer's wife, Mia replies mildly. Like I said, numbers can be deceiving. The other two thugs who had been hanging back now move forward uncertainly. They've never seen anyone handle Butcher and Hammer so easily, especially not some farmer's wife in work clothes and boots. Boss, One of them says hesitantly, "Something ain't right here." Scarecrow's face darkens with rage. "Shut up! She's just one woman. Take her." They rush forward together, but Mia moves like flowing water, slipping between their attacks with the precision that once made her legendary among her fellow paratroopers. One thug throws a punch that Mia guides past her, letting the momentum carry her attacker straight into his companion. They collide with a grunt, stumbling over each other and crushing several sunflowers in their fall. James watches from the sidelines, his heart swelling with pride. He's never seen Mia in actual combat before, only glimpsed hints of her capabilities during their years together. Yet here she is, handling 5 dangerous men with the same calm precision she uses to tend their crops. "Mia!" he calls out, as Butcher struggles to his feet again behind her. "Watch your 6!" But Mia is already moving, stepping aside as Butcher's wild charge carries him straight into the tractor's front tire. The solid thunk of skull-meeting metal echoes across the field, and Butcher drops like a stone. "Anyone else?" Mia asks, still in that same conversational tone. Scarecrow's knuckles whiten around his chain. "What kind of farmer's wife are you?" "The kind who's giving you one last chance to leave," Mia replies. "Take your friend there." She nods at Butcher's unconscious form. "And go, before this gets serious." "Serious?" Scarecrow's laugh has an edge of hysteria to it now. "You think this is a game?" "No," Mia says, her voice dropping slightly. "I think this is you making a series of increasingly poor decisions. Would you like to make another one?" Hammer has regained his feet, rubbing his wrist and glaring at Mia. "Boss, this woman, she's not normal." "Shut up!" Scarecrow snaps. "All of you take her down, now!" The remaining conscious thugs look at each other uncertainly. Their earlier confidence has evaporated in the face of Mia's inexplicable skill. Even Scarecrow seems less sure, his chain now held defensively rather than as a weapon. "I can do this all day," Mia tells them calmly. "But I've got crops to tend and a farm to run, and I'd hate to waste any more time on this nonsense." She gestures at their fallen companions. "You think this is over? You think this is over?" Scarecrow demands, though he takes a small step back. "You think you can embarrass the Red Ravens and just walk away?" "I think," Mia replies, "that you came looking for easy prey and found something else entirely. The question is, are you smart enough to learn from the experience?" Scarecrow's face contorts with rage. With a roar, he swings the chain in a deadly arc toward Mia's head. The metal whistles through the air, and then Mia isn't there anymore. The chain's momentum carries Scarecrow off balance, and suddenly he's falling. The world's spinning around him as Maya uses his own weight and motion against him. Scarecrow hits the ground hard, the chain clattering away across the packed earth. He looks up to find Mia standing over him, still with that same calm expression. James moves closer, ready to help if needed, but staying back enough to let his wife handle the situation she's so clearly in control of. "Now," Mia says quietly, "about that education you wanted. The afternoon sun has risen high now, burning away the last clouds. In its clear light, the Red Raven's fearsome reputation seems to be evaporating just as quickly, leaving them looking like what they really are, bullies who finally picked the wrong target. And Mia Mitchell, the simple farmer's wife they'd so badly underestimated, is about to teach them exactly why that was a mistake." Scarecrow struggles to his feet, his clothes dusty from the fall, his earlier arrogance replaced by something approaching, genuine fear. The casual ease with which Mia had handled his attacks has shaken him more than he wants to admit. "You've had training," Scarecrow accuses, backing away slightly. Military Mia's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in her eyes. "Does it matter?" "Boss," Hammer calls out, still nursing his twisted wrist. "I've seen moves like that before. My brother was Special Forces. This ain't just some random training." James watches the realization spread across the thugs' faces. He's known about his wife's past her whole life, But seeing her in action is different from hearing the stories. The calm, patient woman who tends their crops and manages their farm business is still there. But now they're all seeing the warrior beneath the surface. Army Paratrooper, Mia says quietly, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent field. 82nd Airborne Division, 3 combat tours. Retired now, but some things you don't forget. The revelation of Mia's military background hangs in the air, the thug's earlier bravado draining away like water through a sieve. Scarecrow's eyes dart from Mia to his fallen companions, his mind struggling to reconcile the calm farmer's wife with the skilled fighter who has so easily dismantled his crew. 82nd Airborne, Hammer repeats, a note of grudging respect in his voice. That's no joke, boss. They're the real deal. Scarecrow's jaw clenches, his pride warring with the growing realization that he's picked a fight he can't win. I don't care. If she's the goddamn Terminator, he snarls, nobody makes fools of the Red Ravens. Mia's expression doesn't change, but there's a flicker of something in her eyes. Not quite pity, but a deep understanding of the path these men are on. You're doing a good enough job of that yourselves, she says quietly. You come onto our land, threaten our livelihood and expect what? Submission. Respect. That's not how the world works. James steps forward, placing a hand on Mia's shoulder. It's not a restraining gesture, but one of support, a silent reminder that they're in this together. I think it's time for you boys to leave, he says calmly. You've had your fun. You've seen what happens when you push folks too far. Let's call it a day. Butcher, still groggy from his collision with the tractor tire, staggers to his feet. Blood trickles from a cut on his forehead, mixing with the dirt and sweat on his face. You can't just let her get away with this, he growls. At Scarecrow, we're the Red Ravens. We own this county. Mia shakes her head. You don't own anything, she says, her voice still calm, but with an undercurrent of steel. You bully and you posture, and you think that makes you strong. But real strength? That comes from something else entirely. She takes a step forward, and the thugs instinctively step back. Even Scarecrow, for all his bluster, can't quite meet her eyes. Real strength, Mia continues, comes from knowing who you are, from standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, from protecting the things that matter. She gestures at the sunflower field around them, at the farmhouse in the distance. This land, this life, it's not just a place. It's a promise to nurture, to grow, to create something good in the world. That's what gives me strength. That's what I fought for, what I'll always fight for. Scarecrow's hand tightens around his chain, but there's a hesitation in his movements now. Mia's words have struck a chord, even if he doesn't want to admit it. You think you're better than us? He asks, but there's less venom in his voice. No, Mia replies simply. I think we're all fighting our own battles, but how we choose to fight them, that's what defines us. She takes another step forward, and this time the thugs don't retreat. You have a choice, she tells them. You can keep going down this path, keep taking what isn't yours, keep trying to prove your strength through violence and fear, or you can walk away. You can find a better way. Hammer shifts uneasily, glancing at Scarecrow. Boss, maybe we should just go. This ain't worth it. Scarecrow's eyes narrow, but there's a flicker of uncertainty in them now. He looks at Maya, at the calm strength in her stance, at the sunflowers standing tall around her. You think it's that easy? He asks. You think we can just walk away from this life? No, Mia acknowledges. It's not easy. It's probably the hardest thing you'll ever do, but that's what makes it worthwhile. She extends a hand, not in aggression, but in offering. I can't make the choice for you, but I can tell you this. If you truly want to change, if you're willing to put in the work, you'll have a place here. We always need extra hands during harvest season. Scarecrow stares at her outstretched hand, a myriad of emotions warring across his face. Pride, anger, fear, but beneath it all, a glimmer of something else, something that might almost be hope. In the end, it's Butcher who moves first. With a grunt, he reaches down and picks up the knife Hammer had dropped. For a moment, the tension ratchets up, the thugs and the Mitchells eyeing each other warily. Then with a sigh, Butcher flips the knife in his hand and holds it out to Mia, handle first. "I'm done," he says gruffly. "Done with this life, done with the Ravens. If you're serious about that job offer, I'll be back come harvest time." Mia takes the knife, a smile touching the corners of her mouth. "I'm serious," she says. "Everyone deserves a second chance." One by one, the other thugs follow Butcher's lead. Weapons are laid on the ground, apologies are muttered, and tentative promises are made. Only Scarecrow remains apart, his chain still clenched in his fist. "This ain't over," he says, but there's less certainty in his voice now. "The Red Ravens won't forget this." "Then don't," James says calmly. "Remember it. Remember what you learned here today. Remember that strength isn't about how hard you can hit, but how much you can lift up." For a long moment, Scarecrow and Mia stare at each other. A silent battle of wills playing out across the sunflower field. Then, slowly, Scarecrow's hand opens, the chain falling to the ground with a dull thud. "I'll remember," he says quietly. "But don't think this makes us friends." Mia nods, understanding in her eyes. "It doesn't," she agrees, "but it makes us something else." As the thugs retreat to their trucks, tails tucked between their legs, Mia and James stand together in the sunflower field, hands intertwined. The battle is over, but they both know it's only one skirmish in a larger war. "You think they'll be back?" James asks, watching the dust clouds recede into the distance. "Maybe," Mia acknowledges, "but if they do, we'll be ready. We always are." James squeezes her hand. "That's my girl," he says proudly. "Always ready for anything." Mia leans into him, drawing strength from his solid presence. "Not just me," she says softly. "Us. Together." As the afternoon sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon, Mia and James make their way back to the farmhouse, ready to face whatever challenges the future may bring. They've won this battle, but the war for the soul of Harvest County is far from over. But for now, as the sunflowers sway gently in the breeze, there is peace. And in that peace, the promise of a new beginning, a chance for even the most lost souls to find their way home. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in a stunning array of oranges, pinks, and purples. Mia and James sit on their front porch, sipping iced tea and watching the day's last light fade away. The events of the afternoon replay in their minds, the adrenaline slowly seeping from their bodies. "You were incredible out there," James says, pride evident in his voice. "I mean, I always knew you were tough, but seeing you in action..." He shakes his head, a smile playing at his lips. Mia returns the smile, but there's a touch of weariness in it. "It's not something I ever wanted to bring home," she admits. "That part of my life, the fighting, the violence, I left it behind for a reason." James reaches over, taking her hand in his. "But you used it today to protect our home, our way of life. That's nothing to be ashamed of." Mia nods, but the pensive look doesn't leave her eyes. "I know, but it's a fine line, James. The skills I learned, the things I had to do, it changes you, hardens you. I don't want that life anymore, but I'm afraid..." She trails off, but James understands. "You're afraid it's still inside you, that part of you that had to fight, had to be hard." Mia sighs. "Yes, and I'm afraid that by using those skills, even for the right reasons, I'm inviting that darkness back in." James is quiet for a moment, considering her words. When he speaks, his voice is gentle but firm. "Mia, you are the strongest, most compassionate person I know. What you did today, that wasn't darkness, that was light. That was you standing up for what's right, protecting the things you love. That could never be wrong." Mia leans into him, drawing comfort from his words and his presence. "I hope you're right," she murmurs. "I hope I can be the person this farm needs me to be, the person you see in me." "You already are," James assures her, "and whatever comes next, we'll face it together, just like we always have." As the last light fades from the sky, Mia and James sit in comfortable silence, drawing strength from each other and from the land they call home. The next morning dawns bright and clear, the horrors of the previous day feeling almost like a distant dream. Mia is up with the sun, as always, ready to tackle the day's chores. But as she steps out into the yard, she stops short, her heart suddenly racing. There in the dirt drive is a crude symbol gouged into the ground, a raven with its wings outstretched, a chain dangling from its beak. "James," Mia calls, her voice tight with tension. "You need to see this." James is at her side in an instant, his eyes widening as he takes in the sight. "Is that what I think it is?" Mia nods grimly. "The red ravens. Looks like they left us a calling card." James runs a hand through his hair, frustration evident in the set of his shoulders. "Damn it. I thought we got through to them yesterday. I thought maybe—" "I know," Mia says softly. "I hope so too, but we have to be realistic. Men like that, they don't change overnight. And they don't like to lose." James kicks at the dirt, obliterating the raven symbol. "So what do we do now? Call the sheriff? Start sleeping with one eye open?" Mia is quiet for a long moment, her mind working through the possibilities. When she speaks, her voice is calm and steady. "We go on with our lives," she says firmly. "We tend our crops, we take care of our farm, we love each other, and we stay vigilant." James looks at her, a mix of admiration and concern in his eyes. "You make it sound so simple." Mia smiles wryly. "Simple, no, but necessary. We can't let them win, James. We can't let fear rule our lives." James nods, drawing strength from her resolve. "You're right. Of course you're right. But Mia, promise me you'll be careful. I can't lose you." Mia reaches up, cupping his face in her hands. "You won't," she promises. "I'm not going anywhere, not without one hell of a fight." With a final look at the disturbed dirt, Mia and James turn back to the house, ready to face whatever the day may bring. But even as they go about their daily routines, the shadow of the red ravens looms large. Whispers start to circulate around the county, tales of farmers threatened, shipments hijacked, mysterious accidents befalling those who don't pay up. Maya and James hear the stories, see the fear in their neighbors' eyes. They double down on their security, start checking in on the more isolated farms. Mia's military training comes in handy as she helps organize patrols, teaches basic self-defense, but it's not enough. The Red Ravens are getting bolder, more violent, and Mia knows it's only a matter of time before they come for Valley Wind Farms. Again, it happens on a moonless night, the kind of darkness that seems to swallow sound and light. Mia is jolted awake by the sound of smashing glass, the acrid smell of smoke flooding the bedroom. "James!" She shakes him awake, adrenaline surging through her veins. "The house, I think it's on fire." In an instant, they're both on their feet, coughing as they stumble through the thickening smoke. The heat is intense, the crackling of flames getting louder by the second. "We have to get out!" James yells, groping for the bedroom door. But Mia is already moving, her mind shifting into battle mode. She grabs the go-bag she keeps under the bed, always prepared for the worst. "The back stairs," she orders, slinging the bag over her shoulder. "We'll go out through the kitchen." They make their way down the narrow staircase, the smoke making their eyes water and their lungs burn. The kitchen is chaos, flames licking. Up the walls, the old wooden cabinets already ablaze, and there, silhouetted against the burning back door, are three figures, Scarecrow, Butcher, and Hammer, their faces twisted in cruel satisfaction. Told you this wasn't over, Scarecrow sneers, his voice barely audible over the roar of the fire. Nobody disrespects the Red Ravens and gets away with it. Mia pushes James behind her, her body coiled and ready to strike. Get out of here, she snaps. Go check on Tom. Make sure he got out safe. James hesitates, torn between the instinct to protect his wife and the knowledge that she's the more capable fighter. Mia, go! Mia commands, eyes never leaving the three thugs. I've got this! With a final agonized look, James obeys, disappearing into the smoke and the darkness. Mia faces down her enemies, the heat of the fire nothing compared to the fury burning in her heart. They've come into her home, threatened her family. There will be no mercy this time. You know, you boys never learn, she says, her voice deadly calm. But I'm more than happy to keep teaching you. And with that, she attacks, a whirlwind of precise strikes and fluid motion. The thugs are bigger, stronger, but Mia has speed and skill on her side. She takes them down one by one, using their own momentum against them, slamming them into walls and counters and each other. It's over in minutes, the three men lying groaning and semi-conscious on the burning kitchen floor. Mia stands over them, chest heaving, knuckles bruised and bloodied. Get out, she snarls, kicking Scarecrow in the ribs for good measure. Get out and don't ever come back, because if you do... She doesn't finish the threat. She doesn't need to. The look in her eyes says it all. Choking and stumbling, the red ravens flee into the night, leaving Mia alone in the burning ruins of her home. And even as the flames rise higher, as the timbers groan and crack, Mia feels a grim sense of satisfaction. They've taken her house, but they'll never take her spirit. They'll never take the strength and love and resilience that make Valley Wind Farms more than just a place, but a legacy. James finds her outside, soot-streaked and coughing but alive. They cling to each other as they watch their home become a crackling inferno, the product of so many years of hard work and dream-building consumed in minutes. But even in the midst of destruction, there is hope. Neighbors arrive, drawn by the glow of the fire. They bring water, blankets, shoulders to lean on. In the face of tragedy, the community comes together, united against a common threat. And as the sun rises over the smouldering ruins, Mia and James know that this is not the end. They will rebuild stronger and better than before. They will stand together with each other and with their friends. Because that is the true strength of Valley Wind Farms, not in wood and brick and mortar, but in the unbreakable bonds of love, family, and community. The Red Ravens have taken their best shot. But they've forgotten one crucial thing. You can't kill a dream, not when it's rooted in something as powerful and enduring as the human spirit. And so, as the smoke clears and the ashes settle, Mia and James square their shoulders and turn to face the future, ready for whatever battles may come, because they are farmers and fighters, and above all, they are survivors. And no matter how dark the night, they know that the sun will always rise again. The days following the fire are a blur of activity and emotion. Mia and James sift through the ashes of their home, salvaging what little they can. The community rallies around them, offering food, clothing, places to stay. It's a testament to the strength of the bonds they've forged over the years, the respect and love they've earned. But even as they're buoyed by the support, the shadow of the Red Ravens still looms. The attack on their home was a message, a warning. And Mia knows the gang won't stop until they've exacted their twisted version of justice. She's proven right sooner than she'd feared. Reports start coming in from across the county. Crops burned, livestock slaughtered, families threatened. The Red Ravens are on a rampage, lashing out at anyone they perceive as a threat to their power. Mia and James do what they can, opening their temporary home to those in need, coordinating with the sheriff's department to patrol vulnerable areas. But it's not enough. The gang is always one step ahead, striking with impunity and then melting back into the shadows. Tensions rise, tempers fray. Some in the community start to whisper that maybe it would be easier to just give in, to pay the Red Raven's protection money and be done with it. Mia and James shut down those whispers whenever they arise, but they can feel the fear taking hold, the hopelessness setting in. It all comes to a head one sweltering afternoon, as Mia and James are working to clear the rubble from their burnt-out house. A pickup truck comes barreling up the drive, skidding to a stop in a cloud of dust. It's Pete, the young farmhand, his face white with terror. "They've got Tom," he yells, leaping from the truck. "The Ravens! They took him!" Mia feels her blood run cold. Tom, the kind old man who's been like a grandfather to them. Tom, who stayed with the farm even after Mia's father died, who taught James everything he knows about working the land. "Where?" James demands, his voice shaking with barely suppressed rage. "The old grain silo," Pete says. They said if you don't pay up, they're gonna—" He can't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. They all know what the Red Ravens are capable of. Mia looks at James, sees the same grim determination in his eyes that she feels in her heart. They both know what they have to do. "Pete, call the sheriff," Mia orders, already moving towards their truck. "Tell him to meet us at the silo and tell him to bring backup." Pete nods, scrambling back to his vehicle. James grabs Mia's arm, his grip tight with fear and urgency. "Mia, you can't. It's too dangerous." Mia meets his gaze, her own unwavering. "I have to, James. Tom's risked everything for us, for this farm. I won't let him down." For a moment, it looks like James might argue, but then he nods, his jaw tight. "Okay, but I'm coming with you." They drive in tense silence, the old farm truck rattling down dirt roads and across fallow fields. The grain silo looms in the distance, a rusting hulk against the merciless blue sky. As they draw closer, they can see the Ravens' vehicles parked in a loose circle around the base of the silo. And there, tied to the corrugated metal, is Tom, his head lolling, his face bruised and bloodied. Mia's hands tighten on the steering wheel, her foot pressing down on the accelerator. She's not sure what her plan is, only that she won't let Tom suffer for their fight. But before she can act, before she can even fully form a thought, the air is split by the sound of sirens. The sheriff's department, answering Pete's call, descends on the scene in a screaming cavalcade of light and noise. For a moment, everything is chaos. The Red Ravens scatter, some running for their vehicles, others raising weapons to fire at the approaching law enforcement. Bullets ping off metal, kicking up clouds of dust and chaff. Mia and James are out of the truck in an instant, using the confusion to their advantage. They run for Tom, dodging between the abandoned machinery that litters the base of the silo. They're almost there, almost to their friend, when a figure steps out from behind a rusted tractor. It's Scarecrow, his face twisted in a snarl of rage. "And hate, you just don't learn, do you?" He raises a gun, pointing it directly at Mia's chest. "This ends now." Time seems to slow, the world narrowing to the black eye of the gun barrel. Mia knows she should move, should run or dodge or fight, but she's frozen, paralyzed by the realization that this could be it, the end of everything. And then, in a blur of motion, James is there. He lunges forward, putting himself between Mia and the gun. "No!" The word is torn from his throat, raw and desperate. The gun goes off with a crack, impossibly loud. James staggers, falls. Mia screams, a sound of pure animal anguish. And then she's moving, a lifetime of training and instinct taking over. She's on Scarecrow before he can react, knocking the gun from his hand, driving her knee into his gut. They fall to the ground in a tangle of limbs, trading blows with a savagery born of desperation and fury. Around them the battle rages on, the sheriff and his deputies, the remaining Red Ravens. But Mia is oblivious to it all, her entire being, focused on the man beneath her, the man who has brought so much pain and suffering to her community. It ends as quickly as it began. Mia pins Scarecrow to the ground, her forearm pressed against his throat. She could end it right here. snuff out his miserable life like the candle he is. But even through the haze of rage and grief, Mia knows that's not who she is, not anymore. With a final disgusted shove, she releases him, stepping back as the deputies swarm in to make the arrest. And then she's running, falling to her knees beside James's still form. "James," she sobs, gathering him into her arms. "Please, no." For a horrible, eternal moment, there's nothing, no movement, no sound. And then, miraculously, James coughs, his eyes fluttering open. "Mia!" Relief crashes over Mia like a wave, so intense it's almost painful. "I'm here," she whispers, pressing her forehead to his. "I'm here, my love. In the end, they're lucky." The bullet passed through James's shoulder, painful but not life-threatening. Tom is shaken but largely unharmed. The Red Ravens are rounded, up and arrested, their reign of terror finally at an end. But even as the dust settles, as life slowly returns to normal, Mia knows that they'll never be quite the same. They've seen the darkness that can lurk in the human heart, the cruelty and callousness, but they've also seen the light, the strength of their community, the power of love and loyalty. They've been tested, pushed to the brink, and they've emerged, stronger, more united than ever. And as they begin the slow process of rebuilding their home, their lives, Maya and James know that they can face whatever challenges lie ahead. Because they have each other, and they have the unbreakable bonds of the family they've chosen. The sun sets over Valley Wind Farms, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Mia stands on the porch of their temporary home, James's comforting, Bulk at her side. Before them the land stretches out, scarred but resilient, ready for new growth. Mia takes James' hand, lacing their fingers together. "We made it," she says softly. James squeezes her hand, dropping a kiss to her temple. "We did. Thanks to you." Mia shakes her head. "Thanks to us, all of us, this community, this family. That's what got us through. That's what will always get us through." And as the last light fades, as the stars begin to peek out one by one, Maya feels a sense of peace settle over her. The battles have been fought, the wars won, and whatever the future holds, they will face it as they always have, together, rooted in love and strength and the unshakable bond of the land they call home. Because in the end, that is the true legacy of Valley Wind Farms. Not the sunflowers or the soil, but the spirit of resilience, the enduring power of hope and heart. A legacy that will live on, long after Mia and James have taken their final breaths, carried forward by the generations to come. And so the story ends as it began, with a whisper on the wind, a promise of new beginnings. The farmer and the fighter, the land and the love, all intertwined in an unbreakable tapestry of courage and community. A story of ordinary people facing extraordinary odds and finding within themselves the strength to overcome. A reminder that even in the darkest of times, the most difficult of circumstances, there is always a reason to hope, to fight, to believe. Because in Valley Wind Farms, under the endless Oklahoma sky, anything is possible. Dreams can be planted, nurtured and brought to fruition. Battles can be won, enemies vanquished, lives rebuilt from the ashes, as long as there are those willing to stand up for what's right, to defend the land and the people they love, as long as there are those. Like Mia and James, with fire in their hearts and steel in their spines, then there will always be hope. There will always be a chance for a better tomorrow, and the sunflowers will always bloom, reaching for the sun, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of Valley Wind Farms. The community comes together to help Mia and James rebuild old rivalries and grudges forgotten in the face of this greater threat. They work side by side, hammering nails, raising walls, sowing seeds of hope along with the sunflowers. In time, Valley Wind Farms begins to heal. The scars fade, the burnt fields grow lush again. Mia and James settle into their new home, surrounded, by the warmth and support of their neighbors, turned family. But even as life returns to a semblance of normalcy, they know they can never let their guard down completely. The Red Ravens may be gone, but there will always be others seeking to prey on the vulnerable, to shatter the peace they've fought so hard to secure. And so Mia takes on a new role. In addition to farmer and wife and friend, she becomes a teacher, a mentor, sharing the skills and wisdom she learned in the crucible of war. She starts a self-defense class, open to anyone who wants to learn how to protect themselves and their loved ones. James supports her every step of the way, his quiet strength and steadfast love a cornerstone she can always lean on. Together, they watch as their community grows stronger, more resilient, united not just by proximity, but by the unbreakable bonds forged in adversity. The years pass, seasons turning in their endless dance. Mia's hair begins to silver, James's hands grow gnarled with age and honest work. But still they tend their land, still they watch over their neighbors. And every evening, as the sun sets over the golden fields, they sit together on their porch, hands entwined, hearts full. They speak of the past, of the battles fought and won. They speak of the present, of the joy and peace they've found. And they speak of the future, of the legacy they'll leave behind, because that, in the end, is what matters most. Not the individual, triumphs or losses, but the whole of a life well lived. A life of purpose, of love, of making a difference in ways both big and small. Mia and James know their story will live on long after they're gone. In the tall tales told around campfires, in the lessons passed from parent to child, in the very soil of Valley Wind Farms, where their blood and sweat and tears have mingled, nourishing the land just as it has nourished them. And so, as the last light fades and the first stars begin to peek out, Mia and James raise a toast to each other, to their community, to the unbreakable resilience of the human spirit. "We made it," Mia whispers, her eyes glistening. "We did," James agrees, squeezing her hand, "and we'll keep making it, come what may. Together." Mia leans into him, head on his shoulder, peace in her heart. The road hasn't been easy, and she knows there will be more challenges to come. But here, in this moment, surrounded by all that she loves, she is home. She is whole. And Valley Wind Farms endures, a testament to the power of courage, community, and unshakable hope. A beacon in the darkness, a promise that dawn will always follow the night. So ends the tale of Mia Mitchell, the farmer's wife who became a warrior for justice, who stood tall in the face of terror, who planted seeds of change and watched them bloom. An ordinary woman who found within herself the strength to move mountains. And, in doing so, change the world. May her story inspire us all to be heroes in our own way, to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. Because in the end, that's what makes a life worth living. Thank you for listening to this riveting tale. If you enjoyed the courage, resilience, and heart shown by Mia, James, and the Valley Wind Farms community, please like this story and subscribe for more inspiring narratives of everyday heroes making a difference against all odds. Your support means the world.